It is. Should have been a starter. The Pooch here to guide us through what should be a hugely exciting Rugby Championship. We are on the precipice of a very exciting rugby tournament. Everything to play for all four teams. We have the Argentinians, after a monumental year last year, beating each of the three opponents in the Rugby Championship. Never been done before. The Australians look like they're putting together some good rugby, gaining some momentum. They certainly put up a good fight against the British and Irish Lions. And then, of course, we've got Razor Robinson's All Blacks, second season under Razor, no doubt looking to take it to the next level. And of course, we have the mighty reigning champions, the Springboks. The Springboks are all focused on Operation Eden Park. Eden Park, the last time the Springboks beat the mighty All Blacks at Eden Park was 1937. Now, of course, there was years of isolation and the like. However, the All Blacks have a terrific record against every country that has toured and tried to take them on at Eden Park, and this will be the year the Springboks can certainly create history. Now, the Springboks, I would say, have certainly done that in the last two World Cups, a British and Irish Lions series in between that. But if you look at South Africa as a rugby nation under the Rassie Erasmus era, it was 15 to 18 months before the 2019 World Cup. He came on board, mixed set of results, and really started to gain momentum just before the World Cup. After winning the World Cup, of course, the pandemic, South Africa wins the World Cup in 2019, plays one test against Georgia, and then is in a monumental series against the Lions in 2021. So you're taking the best part of 2 years out after winning a World Cup, and only then having another 2-year cycle ahead of the 2023 World Cup. Rassie Erasmus valuing squad depth and building squad depth at the cost of potentially the cost of wins. However, it was blooding the talent that we're seeing today, regular starters that we're seeing today. And of course, it paid off as the South Africans, the mighty Springboks, went on to win the most difficult World Cup that there has ever been in terms of its staging within the group stage of death, having three of the top 5 teams in the world, and then to go on and beat France, England, and New Zealand in the final. Now is the era of the Springbok dynasty, and consistency is where the dynasty brand fills in. It is the time that South Africa must get rid of the Greater World Cups tag, Greater Cup Rugby tag. Let us put our foot down, chest out, and show why South Africa are number one in the world, why we are the best rugby nation on the planet. And the way we would do that is by not only winning the Rugby Championship, but certainly stealing at least one game in New Zealand. And what a game it would be if it was at Eden Park on the 6th of September. I will be there. I will be guiding you through what should be the biggest rugby game since the 2023 World Cup, given the British and Irish Lions series wrapped up after 2 games, and we did not have a decider. Now the Springboks are the hunted and no longer the hunter. We have seen the Rassie Erasmus team sheet, a few interesting combinations. Andre the Giant coming in at 12, Sia Khaleesi coming in at 8, and Manie Libbok filling the fly half role. I expect the Springboks to play a very similar game plan to what they did against Ireland in that first game against Loftus. If you can remember, Peter Steph du Toit catching the ball on the wing regularly in that game. Sia Khaleesi being monumental with ball in hand, really flinging it from one wing to the other. Exciting rugby. That is the style of rugby that is likely you're going to need to win the next World Cup. Here in Australia, the pitches are hard. It suits a more running style game without trying to say you dismiss the Bok DNA set piece scrummaging mentality. With the emergence of Tony Brown into the Springbok setup, we have gradually seen some exciting rugby, especially through the back line, allowing the back line to express themselves. I think that's the kind of game we'll see. Manie Libbok's kicking activity towards goal, out-and-out goal kicker, despite Rassie Erasmus's recent comments about new balls and Manie slotting them. I'll believe it when I see it. However, I love Manie Libbok with ball in hand. The crisp pass, the ability to break defences. He certainly is an exciting player, and I think that's where the Springboks game plan will be. Especially selecting Sear at 8. I think we'll be seeing a lot of running rugby. Mac Wright versus Van Staden at the breakdown. Eben versus Big Willie Skelton. That is the headline for this game. 140, 145 kilo Willie Skelton, who absolutely monstered Mario Toje in that Lions series. Unfortunately, he didn't play the first game, and then coming back from injury, he only managed 40, 45 minutes in the second game. As soon as he went off, we saw the impact that he had on the Wallabies setup, the punch up the guts, the ability to influence the breakdown. He's a big, big boy, and make no mistake about it, Eben is in for a challenge. Thor, Daniela Tupou versus Salads Don't Eat Scrums, Ox and Che. That should be a hell of a tussle. I am very, very excited to see this game. Now, the narrative around Australia is, were the Lions just not that good, given the hype that they had come into Australia with, thinking it'll be an easy 3-0 whitewash, or Australia better than people expected? I think both can be true. Certainly, names on the team sheet, the British and Irish Lions had a brilliant, brilliant team. However, I don't believe they played to their full ability. And the Wallabies, conversely, I think played above their pay stations, or certainly what was expected of them. We saw the emergence of a few players like Jorgensen. Harry Wilson was terrific. Will Skelton had his best couple of games in a Wallabies shirt. So we're starting to see a few players emerge, a lot of young players. I think Jorgensen's only 20. And of course, they've got a incredibly unique aerial monster in Joseph Suaalii at 13. It's an interesting one. The debate rages on. Where is he best suited? 13, 15, or wing? I'll be honest, haven't quite made my mind up. However, we saw the test, his debut at 13, and how monumental he was, especially showing off his aerial ability. And we didn't really see much of that in the Lions series. Was that purposeful? Or was it just a change of game plan under Joe Schmidt? I can certainly see a bit of variety in the kicking game of the Wallabies to beat the breakneck speed of the South African rush defence with a few little chips over the top, aiming to draw on Suaalii's ability to get high in the air and win the ball back. That should be exciting. While Australia are certainly emerging, the 9-10 combo is still a huge concern. I think, and what should have been his last game, the scrum half tyrant, the pest himself, at number 9, played certainly, I think, one of his best games in that final test in Sydney under unique circumstances, torrential rain. He was terrific, but now they've lost Liner. So that's Nolosio and now Tom Liner. Now they're down to Ben Donaldson. I'm not sure what the depth chart looks at now. They will certainly be on their last legs in terms of number 10. And so I can certainly expect Andre the Giant to be running it straight down the guts and seeing how he fronts up Ben Donaldson. He's certainly a bigger man than Liner and Lolosio. So I certainly wouldn't expect him to be as brittle or as weak in the tackle. Although I must give Liner credit, I'd certainly think he put himself about in that line series, and credit to him. But if Ben Donaldson gets injured, Australia are really in a lot of trouble. So Joe Schmidt is an incredibly shrewd coach. But when I look at 23 versus 23, and we know now it is a 23-man game, there is absolutely no doubt who the better team is. The Springboks are clearly the better team, although there are some big tussles that are in store, some of which I've mentioned. But make no mistake about it, the Springboks are a far better team on paper. The biggest concern I have about the Springboks is the Springboks have lived and have built an aura through World Cups, through monumental games of having their backs against the wall and being the underdogs. Now we are the hunted. Now is the time to get onto the pitch, chest out, head up high, and show the world and show South Africa once again why we are number 1. If they play with the intention that they do when their back's against the wall, South Africa will win this game by 10 points. I'm giving South Africa a clear 70% chance of winning this game, with Australia 30%. A bit of genius from a couple of those players in Jorgensen, Wright. Make no mistake about it, if Valentini is back, coupled together with Skelton, that is a formidable team. It's more the players coming off the bench. Outside of Angus Bell, the punch isn't quite there. The Boks going for a 5-3. So I think the Boks are going to try play Wallabies rugby, running rugby. Are we going to play it into their hands? I expect us at altitude to win, but I expect a good game. Now, the Argentinian rugby, Los Pumas, have certainly, over the last 2 to 3 years, been one of the success stories of world rugby. We had a come in on I don't know if it was a consulting basis, but really on a short-term contract. And what he installed certainly was a bit of belief that they could take a big scalp. And what I mean by that is beating New Zealand in New Zealand. That was huge for them. However, they still showed the typical, and the French have certainly been guilty of this in the past, is a lack of consistency game to game. What Felipe Contepomi, the Los Pumas legend, has certainly taken on is again the ability to take the big scalp, but also not to roll over when you're down, and being more consistent week on week. We saw the Springboks take a 17-0 lead in Argentina and come up short. So there is a bit of fight in this Argentinian team. This year we've seen a fantastic win by the Argentinians over the British and Irish Lions in Ireland. And since then, look, obviously a couple of strange results against a second-string English team. I fully expect the Argentinian team to pick up where they left off last year and really aim to take at least one scalp here over the All Black series. 2 games at home. Felipe Contepomi is building momentum, and I expect Argentina to play their typical brash rugby style, making every breakdown messy, difficult, scrappy. But what he has done is he's added the glitz and glamour to the back line. Certainly he had a lot of glamour himself. Yeah, and that is all coming off the back of Tomas Albanos, the fly half for the Los Pumas, can certainly cut anyone open. And I expect him to be someone that Razor Robinson and the All Blacks will keep a strong eye on. But they've got that ability to have that flair, still that frustrating team at the breakdown, and that team that is now unwilling to simply roll over when they encounter difficult periods in the game. Razor Robinson will certainly be under huge amounts of pressure now. He was the long-awaited golden child to become the next All Black coach. You can remember under Fozzie, a bad period that kept him on and sacked most of his staff. That was a strange decision, albeit we did see a improved All Blacks for that sort of last 12 to 18 months in the lead up to the World Cup. And obviously they got to the World Cup final. Having lost the World Cup final, having lost a couple of players to Japan, we've still seen a All Blacks team trying to find their rhythm. And the pressure will now be on Razor. He's at his first debut year, right? I think it was more difficult than he expected. However, this guy's a maverick. So will the breakdancing rugby coach be able to up the ante? Where they have been successful is plugging a couple of key holes. Fabian Holland, Tupou Vai, both locks. Vai obviously playing 6, which seems to be more that common practice now that we're seeing in World Rugby, where you've got a lock that can play in the loose. However, still a couple of concerns in terms of Roy Guard being head and shoulders above all the other scrum halves. But then now Jody Barrett is in search of a midfield partner. So will they be able to find the midfield combination? Is it going to be Leonard Brown? Is it going to be Proctor? Is it going to be someone else? Will this be the year that we see a couple more All Blacks emerge to complement the Vais, the Hollands, and Wallace Satiti? An extremely exciting and Rookie of the Year last year in the World Rugby Awards. I think if Argentina can certainly match them in the scrum, they're in with a really, really good chance. Argentinian rugby was built on brilliant scrums and scrummages. That, if anything, has tailed off over the last few years and have been found wanting. However, there's a couple of newbies coming through that have good reputations. Let's see how they fare. If they can, I think they've got a real chance. I think the All Blacks are nudging it by 60% in my eyes by just a few points. However, up in the north of Argentina, it should be a unique atmosphere. The All Blacks will certainly be in with a tough challenge, and do not be surprised if the All Blacks lose this game. I rate the Argentinians. Felipe Contepomi is certainly building a reputation for himself, and this should be certainly a very exciting rugby championship with everyone, I think, in with a really good chance of beating each other. But make no mistake about it, Operation In Park is on countdown. The Springboks must not overlook the Wallabies. There's plenty of work to be done, but certainly eyeing up 6th of September. I'll be there. I'll be taking you on the journey. Please like and subscribe. Love to hear your comments, any predictions. Thanks very much. Cheers.